All right, hello everyone. Good to see everyone here so far. We have 9 people watching, which is only half our class. So we still need more people to tune in. Oh, yes, good afternoon, actually. Yes, Camilla, good afternoon. Hi, Mac. Hello, hello. Good to have you all here. We're just gonna wait, once again, same idea, 5 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes to have a few more people trickle in. And then we'll get started. And then I have a couple of announcements before we begin. So just sit tight, and then we'll get started very soon. Still only at 8 people. Where is everyone? If you know people that are not here, could you please let them know that our class is starting very soon? Hi, Emily. Hi, Alexandra. Hi, Gia. Good to have you all join us. Hi, Chris. If you're using your TV to watch, no worries. That's all good. It'll most likely be focused on a lot of writing down stuff anyway, so. Hello, Russell. Hello, John. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, I think we're just gonna get started. We have 10 people watching. We're missing like half the class, but it is what it is. So first announcement: your quiz will be tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow it'll be multiple choice, and it'll be on Google Forms. So I'm gonna be doing that. Okay, and so once we have that down and ready to go, so tune in to the live stream tomorrow, and then we'll kind of go over what we need to do and stuff like that. Today's class is going to be fairly short because I do want to do it over 2 days. So today will be 30 minutes, tomorrow will be the quiz, and then another 30 minutes, something like that. Or at least that's the hope with this. And let's see. There's one more announcement I'm trying to remember. Oh yes, office hours. Office hours this week will be on Thursday. So on Thursday will be the office hours instead of Wednesday because Monday we had off. Okay. Hello Vidal. All right. So let's get started. You had homework over the long weekend. Hopefully you had a wonderful long weekend, but even if it was wonderful, hopefully it would be even more wonderful if you did your homework. So let's check your homework. Your homework page looks something like this. Zoomed in a little too much. This was your homework page. Quiz is about all of what we learned over the last week. So 3.1 to 3.3. Okay, so review of independent and dependent scatter plots. So first, let's talk about independent dependent. So here, what is my independent variable? What is my dependent variable for each one? My independent variable, it's the variable that doesn't really care or doesn't matter what the other thing is, right? This is the main thing we are comparing. Usually, for independent, if we have a unit of time, right, is usually the independent. So in our case, age versus height, age would be our independent, right? Age is always going to go up no matter what anyone else says, right? You're always going to get older. It's not like I'm going to tell you, hey, stop getting older. You're not going to stop getting older. You're always going to get older, right? It's just time. Time keeps going regardless of anything else that happens around you. So age is going to be independent. Height is going to be dependent. How tall you are or how tall a tree is dependent on how old the tree is, right? The younger the tree is, the shorter the tree is probably going to be. The older I am, when I'm compared to when I was 6 years old, I'm taller than when I was 6 years old, right? So that's the idea we're going for here. 1B, the amount earned versus the number of hours you worked. Well, definitely your independent would be hours for this one, because how much time you work, it doesn't matter, right? That's always going to go up as long as you're working. And then dependent is going to be the money, right? The more you work, the more money you're going to make, right? So that's going to be that one for the second one. The third one, the distance you travel and the amount of fuel remaining, right? What depends on what? Any ideas? This can go either way, right? Since we're not talking about units of time for this one, we're not really worried about which one is. So what is my independent? People are, so John's saying distance. Some saying fuel. And some are saying, I don't know. The difference here, okay, when you think of amount of fuel remaining, this is the tricky part, okay? It's starting from a full tank going down to a not full tank, right? So we're going from bigger to smaller, right? So I would personally say, what do you think? Distance you travel and the amount of fuel remaining. It would have to be distance. So John T was right. And dependent would be the fuel. The quiz you're going to be doing from Google Forms, I'll give you the link tomorrow. Just make sure you tune in to the live stream, and I'll give you the link on on the what's it called, on the live chat, and I'll give it to you on Google Classroom as well. Okay. And for D, a knitter needs to know how much wool is required to make 10 sweaters. What are the two variables? Well, so this one doesn't tell us what the variables are. Like I said, tune in to the live stream and you'll know. So just tune into the live stream like yesterday, like today. So independent and dependent. So our two variables here would be the amount of wool, and the second would be the number of sweaters, right? This can go either way, right? It depends on how you're interpreting the question, right? So amount of wool versus dependent, right? The number of sweaters. Okay. Who is Star Neo? I need a name. Because I've asked for whoever is coming onto my YouTube live chat to be using their actual account, or I should be able to tell their name right away. Okay, Nicholas, you need to pay attention to what I'm talking first. You can ask about the quiz and stuff like that later, or you can rewind the video. You're not asking about that now. Okay? So you need to focus on writing the work and listening to this. Right? And if you didn't tune in from the beginning, you need to rewind and watch it later and figure out. All right? I can't have you asking those questions when I'm teaching something right now. All right? So let's keep going. Number 2, create scatter plots for the data below. Is there a relationship? And if yes, would you say it is positive or negative? Think slow. Okay? So let's graph one of these, and the other one you hopefully did it for homework. So always, when I give you a table of values, X will always be on the left, Y will always be on the right. Okay? So that's something you need to understand here. So the number of hours and the test score is given here. So on this graph here, I would use study hours here. And then over here would be my test score. Okay. So we have our X and we have our Y. 0 will always be in the corner. Okay. And the number of hours, the smallest number is 1 and the highest number is 7. So we need to go from 1 all the way to 7. So if we space it out, if I say every 2 squares is going to be 1, it should look something like this. Okay. Nice and spaced out, easy to read, and I use as much space as possible. You want to use as much space as possible because, right, if you don't, everything's going to be really tight. And when everything's really small and really tight, it looks like there's a pattern when sometimes there's not. So it could be very easily misunderstood. So please use as much space as possible so you can clearly see whether there's a pattern or not. For the Y, the lowest number is 40 and the highest number is 100. So I'm going to start with a break. And I'm going to start at 40. And then I'll go up by 2. And voila. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And so now we have it completely filled out. Okay? So when we plot our points going through 380 and then 590 going through. So let me quickly plot these points. And there we have it. Okay? So, that being said, we're going to draw our line of best fit using my green line. Will look something like that. Right? As close to as many points as possible. Maybe I could have done it a little bit higher. Something like this. Right? So maybe something like that. But I think this is pretty close. Anything close to that would be pretty good. Line of best fit. And there we have it. So is there a relationship? And is it positive or negative? For this would definitely be positive. Right? This is definitely positive going up. And if I ask you, describe the relationship, right? It's not using those three words. You're not using positive, negative. You're not using strong, weak. You're not using linear, nonlinear. When I ask you, is there a relationship? I'm asking you, give me a sentence that is there a comparison, a relationship between study hours and test score? And looking at this graph, yes, there is. As the number of hours you study goes up, or the more you study, your test score is likely to be higher. Okay, or better test score. Okay, as the hours go up, your test score goes up. That's the idea. And this is always the example I use for those who don't study in my class. Make sure you study and you'll do better, right? So there's your test score versus study hours. And you had to do similar thing at the bottom here, right? For the 10 different breakfast cereals. Okay. So hopefully you did this correctly with a break as well for the amount of sodium. If you did not, and if you're curious as to the answer to this one, I'm going to save this one for office hours on Thursday. Okay. So we're going to save this one for office hours on Thursday. Okay. Well, let's move on to today's worksheets. Or worksheet. There's one that I'm going to go over today. Just one. Because, as you can see, it's just a lot of graphing. A lot of graphing. We're only going to go over one page. This is page 13. If you have page 13 printed out, please take it out. It should look something like this. It says scatterplot homeworks at the top. If you don't have page 13, please go print it out right now. I'll give you around 2 to 3 minutes. And in the meantime, now you can ask any questions that you have that is not pertaining perhaps to the lesson while people go get this prepared. If you are ready, type a G in the chat. I know some people can't type, so don't worry. For whoever can type, please type a G in the chat when you have this worksheet in front of you and ready to write notes. There's a Nicholas in my morning class, and I'm wondering if he came into the wrong live stream. Okay, I think most people are good to go. That should be half the people. So let's get started with this page. So, this whole thing is about graphing, right? It's all about graphing. So, let's talk about this. So it says, predict what you think the relationship will be, state the independent dependent variables, graph the scatter plot on the grid provided, and then assess the correctness of your prediction. Okay? So X and Y. Okay? X and Y. X is age, Y is height. So if I ask you if dependent and independent variables, right? If X is your independent variable, okay? So independent would be our age, and dependent would be height. Right? So we know that our X is always our independent and our Y is always our dependent. And Nicholas, you're in my if you are the Nicholas that I know, you are in my grade 10 applied class. This is grade 9 applied. And if it's a different Nicholas, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Okay? So, our age goes from 0 to 10. Our height goes from 50 to 149. So, our age is our X, and we should all know by now that our X is on the horizontal axis here. So I'm going to write age down here. And we need to go from 0 to 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just going to number it. I can't do any other. I can't go up by 2 or else I'm not going to have enough space. So I am going to have some blank space on the right side, and that's okay. All right? You use as much space as you can. All right? That's why you do it in pencil. So you can try erasing and see, oh, wait, I'm using very little space. Maybe I can, use 2 squares or use 3 squares or whatever it is. And we'll look at that example on the next one. But still, age here. Okay? At the bottom, that's our X. Our Y is our height. I'm going to write the title this way so I don't have to turn the page. And since in brackets there's units, we have to write those units in brackets too, so that we keep that in mind. Okay? So height, units in centimeters. Okay? Then we have to think a numbering system that goes from 50 to 149. You are not, once again, you are not copying down these numbers here. That's not how a scale works. A scale goes up by the same amount every single time. So I need to use a break first of all, right? That little zigzag to indicate that from 0 to 50, I can ignore it. Right? From 0 to 50, there's no point, mainly because, right? 0 to 50 is like a lot. And there's nothing in there. So why would we ever have to do 0 to 50? So we're going to start at 50. And we're essentially saying the break is telling us anything under 50, we are skipping because there's nothing there. Okay. Then we can go up by set amounts. Now this can be your choice. Okay. This can be your choice. But I'm going to go up by, I would say 15. Or no, let's go up by tens. I think we might have enough for 10. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. Yeah, we have enough for 10. So 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So we use most of the space. So this top part's not being used, this side part's not being used, but that's okay. We use as much space as possible. Going up by 5s, it won't fit. And going up by 15s might have been a little too small. So I think going up by 10s is the right amount. Okay? Now, title. The other one, we didn't really have a title because there wasn't enough space, but we do have space for a title here. So our title here, remember, is always Y versus X. So our Y is height versus our X, which is age. So it would be height versus age. And then we can start plotting. So 050, 164, 275, 390, 4105, 5120, 6128, 7135, 8141, 9146, and 10149. Okay. Now, this is what you should have graphed. I'm going to give like a minute for people to finish graphing their points. Okay. If I ask you, what is the trend that you see? Okay. Are there any ideas? Is it increasing or decreasing? Is it strong or weak? Is it linear or non-linear? Good. It's positive. It's increasing. Very good. Is it strong or weak? We have strong, and we have people saying linear. I would say this is non-linear. Now, I understand why people think it's linear. But let me show you with green why I think it's non-linear. It's actually curved. If you look at it carefully, let me zoom in here. That doesn't seem like a very straight line at the end there. If I follow it with this pen, it looks like it's flattening out. Doesn't it look like it's following this kind of trend? Which means at a certain point, this person's not going to get taller. Mary's not going to get taller. So this is actually non-linear. It's curving at the end. It's a little hard to see, yes, but that curve at the end is kind of what we want to what we want to identify. In comparison to our previous one, right? In comparison to our previous one, this one here, there definitely wasn't a curve, so we have to do our best to fit a line that follows a general trend upwards, right? But this one, you can clearly see that it's pretty curved at the end of it. So we can say that's nonlinear. But people who said positive and strong, very good. That's the idea, right? So those two words are good. This would be nonlinear. Okay? So, this one last question. Okay? And then we're done our class for today. So nothing too big. We have this. Jason surveyed the number of movie tickets sold on a weekly basis. You have the number of weeks, the number of ticket sales. I'm going to give you another, let's 5 minutes. There's only 5 points. Let's see if you can get your proper scaling down here. Okay? So 5 minutes on the clock. Good luck. And we'll be back in 5 minutes to take it up. All right. So, hopefully you have completed what I asked you to do, understanding X and Y. Which means at the bottom here, we always label our axes first. Number of weeks is our X, our horizontal. You have number of ticket sales, and it specifies that it's in millions. Here. Okay. Then we can write down our number of weeks. If you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's right, but it's way too much of a waste of space. So the best you could do to save the amount of space is this. Every 2 squares is 1 instead. That way you use as much space as you can. Okay? Because I've given that space to you, you should try your best to use it. Okay? Vertically, we have to go from 5 to 18. Okay? 5 to 18. You can use a break, but 0 to 5 really isn't that big of a jump, right? So going up by 2s works out. Okay, going up by 2s is pretty good. And then we can go from there. So if I plot this out. Oh, wait, before I plot it, our title. Y versus X. Okay. It's going to be our Y, which is ticket sales, versus weeks, right? Or number of weeks. I'll just write weeks because I'm running out of space there. Okay, so we have our Y versus X. Now we can plot it. If you're curious as to how many marks this is right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 marks. If this was a quiz or a test, this is a total of 5 marks. Okay? A total of 5 marks. Going from there, we can plot 118, 216, 311, 4-9, and 5-5. Okay? So that's what your trend should look. Oh, sorry, your graph should look like. Then let's talk about trend. And I have Russell written down what he thinks the trend is, which is good. So let's go over what he wrote down instead then. So let's go over what Russell wrote down. We have our trend. What is our trend? He said negative. And yes, I would have to agree. This is definitely negative. And Russell wrote linear. I would say this is relatively linear as well. If I ask you to draw your line, there's my line. That's the closest linear line that is as close to as many points as possible, right? So that be linear, absolutely. And our last word is strong or weak, and I'd say that's pretty strong. The points are pretty close together to that line, okay? So that's very good. So this is what you need to know, and this is what I will be testing you tomorrow on, okay? Or quizzing you tomorrow on, right? So there's going to be a quiz tomorrow, 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3, right? Please keep that in mind. Okay. And then we'll finish up like that. Okay, so I'm going to keep this on the screen for whoever's still copying down. But that is your lesson for today. So that was around 40 minutes. Okay. We'll continue tomorrow, but that's the idea. Okay. So Let's switch over back to my webcam now so you can see my face clear. So, thing about today. For tomorrow, once again, quiz, be prepared for that and what I'm going to be asking you for the quiz tomorrow. For the I lost it in the back of my head. For office hours, sorry, it'll be Thursday. Okay, so office hours on Thursday this week instead of Wednesday, which is tomorrow. So it's going to be Thursday. And lastly, just look forward. Once again, tomorrow you don't have homework other than to study for the quiz. So look through the workbook. The workbook's all online on Google Classroom. So please download and read over and resolve if you need to. Rose asked, "Sir, can you lower our marks for our report cards?" You want me to like lower them, like bring you down to like from a 70 to like a 50 or something? Like I can lower your marks, absolutely. If the whole class wants me to, just bring everyone down to a 50, I mean, I've got, if that's what you want. But all jokes aside, that's pretty much it for today. All right, so please come back this time. Okay, this time tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'll go over the instructions for the quiz and what I'm going to be asking you to do, and then we'll go through like a short lesson, in other words like a review lesson for what we did today, and then that'll be it for tomorrow. All right, so have yourselves a good one. Peace out. Make sure you study for that quiz.